Hello, and welcome to our Clark County Back to School Electric School Bus event. Thank you so much for joining us. For our members of the media, please note that you're on a muted line, and while we cannot see you, you will be able to see and hear our panelists as they make their formal remarks. I want to thank Moms Clean Air Force for sponsoring this event. We also should note that we are currently live streaming on their Facebook page, and we just started recording this event. I'm going to share the speaker lineup in the chat function, just so that you can follow along, and each of our speakers will be introducing the speaker following them. We'll get started in just Welcome everyone to our Clark County Back to School Electric School Bus virtual press conference featuring Nevada Electric elected officials along with clean vehicle advocates who have come together today to speak in support of significant investment in electric vehicles. I want to thank again Moms Clean Air Force Nevada for sponsoring today's event. For our agenda, we will have 2 to 3 minutes of formal remarks for each of our speakers who will be visible and audible via their video. At the end of the formal remarks, we'll have a brief Q&A session. Members of the media, you'll be able to raise your hand or use the chat function and indicate if you have a question. We'll be able to unmute your line. I now want to introduce Cynthia Zermano-Moore, field organizer for Moms Clean Air Force Nevada and national program lead for Eco Madres. Cynthia, the microphone is yours.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Cynthia Zermano-Moore, and I am the national lead for Eco Madres and a Nevada field organizer based out of Las Vegas for Moms Clean Air Force, and also a member of Congressman Horsford's Equity Cabinet. Moms Clean Air Force is an organization of over 1.5 million moms and dads with over 8,000 members right here in Nevada. Our membership is growing because moms and dads are concerned about the air that our children are breathing on a daily basis. Our members have joined our organization to fight for clean air and protect our children's future, which is why I joined Moms Clean Air Force. When I was a child, like many others, I took the school bus to school for most of my K through 12 education. While I enjoyed riding the bus because I saw this as an opportunity to spend more time with my friends outside of the classroom, I did not know that the air that we were breathing inside the school bus was dirtier than the air that we were breathing outside. Inside the school bus, the air pollution can be up to 10 times worse than the air outside, many times not meeting federal standards. As a mother of a 4-year-old who will be heading to school next year, I know that we must do more. Our children deserve to ride clean buses and not have to worry about whether the air that they are breathing inside the school bus is going to cause an asthma attack or exacerbate their breathing issues. Transportation is the sector that contributes to our poor air quality and accounts for almost 1/3 of all US air pollution and is the single largest source of climate harming carbon pollution in the US. The American Lung Association's 2021 State of the Air Report ranked Las Vegas number 12 in the nation for ground ozone pollution, with vehicle emissions as a primary cause of unhealthy air days. Nevadans deserve clean air. Our children riding school buses, daily commuters, truck and local delivery drivers, and residents near major roadways like myself and my family, and other pollution hotspots will benefit from the better air quality afforded by electric transportation. Without ambitious investments in clean vehicles and infrastructure, automakers will continue to make dirtier cars that pollute our air and harm our health. Improving our air quality is important for vulnerable groups like children whose lungs are still developing, older Nevadans, and for Latino families who are more likely to be exposed to air pollution. Efforts to improve our air quality are particularly important to me as a mother of a son who has breathing problems and the parents of over 50,000 children who suffer from asthma across Nevada. It is urgent that Congress pass a bill that makes big, bold, and ambitious investments needed to tackle the climate crisis, achieve true environmental justice, and accelerate the transition to clean energy. To meet this moment, to heed the science, and to make good on President Biden's promise, Congress must act now to deliver on climate justice and jobs. Thank you very much. And I wanted to pass this along to County Commissioner from District F and Vice Chair of the Regional Transportation Commission of Southern Nevada, Justin Jones.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. I am really excited to be here today. I represent the Southwest Valley on the County Commission as the Commissioner for District F, and I also serve as Vice Chair of the Southern Nevada Regional Transportation Commission. Earlier this year, Clark County adopted a climate action plan, which we're calling All in Clark County. One of the 4 guiding principles of our climate action plan is smart, efficient transportation. In addition to converting our own fleets to ZEVs over the coming years, under our climate action plan, Clark County will promote policies, programs, and infrastructure investments that prioritize clean, efficient transportation options throughout Clark County. I'm also honored to serve as the Vice Chair of RTC, and this was a big week for us. On Sunday, RTC rolled out new service in the Southwest Valley, where I live, as well as West Henderson, the Northwest, and Boulder City. I'm also very excited about our new pilot microtransit service called RTC On Demand, with door-to-door service in the Southwest Valley. RTC is fully committed to converting our bus fleet to zero-emission buses, and we're already working to purchase EV buses and install the infrastructure needed to support them. Last year, RTC was also awarded a grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation to purchase 2 hydrogen fuel cell buses and build out the infrastructure to support several more. Clark County and RTC are fully committed to building back better for a sustainable future for Southern Nevada, and we support the efforts for the school district and other partners to convert to zero-emission vehicle buses. As the father of an asthmatic student myself, I know that our students' health and our quality of life depend upon it. I'm grateful for the tremendous support that our federal delegation has given us on clean transportation infrastructure and appreciate the votes from Senators Cortez Masto and Rosen this morning in support of the bipartisan infrastructure bill. I call upon them and Congressional Representatives Dina Titus, Susie Lee, and Stephen Horsford to support the infrastructure bill and additional efforts to invest in EV infrastructure, research for clean energy, and clean transportation. And now I'll turn it over to my friend and former state Senate colleague, Senator Pat Spearman.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Jones, and thank you, Moms. Clean Action. I want to thank everyone who's joining us today, because I think that this is not only a timely subject, but it is also a very important subject. I was glad to hear Commissioner Jones talk about the hydrogen fuel cells, because I know here in Nevada, we have been enamored with our solar power, our solar energy, which we should be. But the one thing that I want to focus on today is the need to diversify. A couple of years ago, we in the state Senate passed a bill that requires Nevada to be 50% renewable energy by the year 2030. The fact that Nevada Senate, the Nevada legislature only meets every other year means that we have about 4 more times to meet to come up with a way to make sure that Nevada meets that goal. And so diversity is going to be the key. Diversity, not just from the standpoint of resources, because I believe that we've got to electrify, but we also need to look at other avenues of renewable resources, because if we would convert everything right now to electric vehicles, along with everything else that we're using electricity for, we would probably overpower the grid. So I am a fan of diversification, of electrification, hydrogen fuel cells, wind, whatever we have to do, bio, geothermal, all of that. I think that that's important because, number one, as we use those resources that are around us, we also have an opportunity to build out an economic ecosystem that we desperately need here in Nevada, because we also need to diversify our economy. So a diversification in the ecosystem would be not just looking at solar panels, it would also be looking at what we need, what goes into the solar panels, not just hydrogen fuel cells, but what goes into them. We need people who know how to fix the computers. We need people who know how to drive the vehicles. We need people working in cafeterias. We need so many things. And I think that moving forward, especially with what President Biden and what our federal delegation has already begun to act on, this will help us in Nevada. Make no mistake about it. This is not a partisan issue. This will help us in Nevada. It will help us not only breathe, but it will also help us come back from the very brink of catastrophe that we have suffered during COVID-19. I myself am an asthmatic, and I know the importance of making sure that we have clean air. I have so many other colleagues that I served with in the United States Army and other services who are suffering right now from burn pit, and they cannot breathe. Their breathing has been compromised. Respiratory system has been compromised because of what happened to us while we were in the service. And so when we talk about infrastructure, we talk about bringing more clean energy on board. We're talking about not just doing this for the communities in which we live, but I believe we owe a debt of gratitude to the veterans who have put their lives on the line and who now themselves need us to step forward for them. So I'm all in for diversifying for our renewable energy, making sure that we've got a diversified ecosystem. I know that if we don't do some things very differently with respect to fossil fuels and with respect to keeping our eye on the ball to make sure we're at 50 by 2030, we will find ourselves in the same place that many of us may remember in 1973. You may have read about it, the OPEC oil embargo, where gas in 2 days went from 17 cents a gallon, in some places 30 cents a gallon, all the way up to 60 cents a gallon. And if you read the stories, you'll find out that there were many people who were saying, oh my God, I don't know what to do. Maybe it'll go up to $1. Well, now we're almost at $4 and we're still in the consumption mode, and we still have not really committed to diversification. So I believe that this is going to be very important. It's going to be important not just for diversifying renewable energy, not just for diversifying our economic ecosystem, but it is important to make sure that we bring all of the communities along with us, because it's not just the big cities. It's also the little cities. It's the rurals. It's those who are in the emerging economy. So all of these things coming together mean that when we do this for health reasons, and we also do it for economic reasons. But I think the most important reason for us to do this is for the generation that is coming behind us. We owe them more. That's why we do it. And I want to stop right there and introduce now Deputy Director for the Nevada Conservation League and Education Fund, Ms. Verna Msndez. Verna, take it away.
Thank you, Senator. Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Verna Msndez, and I am the Deputy Director for the Nevada Conservation League. First and foremost, I'd like to applaud Senator Cortez Masto and Senator Rosen for passing a $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill this morning. This is a huge moment in our country, and the work is not done yet. The conversation we're having this morning is gravely important, especially in places like where I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. Clark County was recently given an F grade by the American Lung Association for our poor air quality and heavy pollution in the valley. I grew up right here in Las Vegas. I took the school bus from elementary school to high school. After that, I took the public bus every day from work until I went back home until I was 20 years old. So access to transportation is a game changer for so many people, and I'm grateful that I was afforded that access to public transportation during my youth. However, the transportation sector is a leading contributor to air pollution, and we need to be sure that we are not harming the same communities that we are seeking to support. Pollution has been linked to a variety of health problems, including asthma and other respiratory illnesses, cardiovascular condition, and even premature death. We all know that pollution disproportionately impacts low-income communities and communities of color. The climate and pollution crisis is not just a problem for the environment, it is a problem that deeply affects communities all over the world and all over the country, just like the community that I grew up in. President Biden has put forth an infrastructure package that will help states like Nevada reduce our transportation pollution. This package includes investments in clean transportation, which are essential to meeting our nation's and our state's climate goals. President Biden has proposed specific investments in cleaner cars, cleaner trucks, and buses that doubles the federal funding for public transit. It tackles delayed repairs, and it connects communities and neighborhoods to new bus and rail services, which is going to be exponentially wonderful for so many communities that don't have this access as of now. So this package will not only help us create healthier communities, but it would also bring good paying jobs to so many. Investments in clean energy and clean transportation has the potential of creating over 1 million manufacturing jobs in the nation. So imagine that, creating a healthier and more sustainable community while also creating employment opportunities for people. And I think it's important for us to note that while we're addressing the climate crisis, we can no longer ask ourselves, how do we make sure that communities aren't left behind? Instead, what we should be asking is, how do we be sure that communities of color and low-income communities are all the first in line to reap the benefits of the clean energy future? And honestly, Nevada has done its part. Our legislators meet every other session and create new legislation that tackles the climate crisis. But now we need help from our federal representatives. I strongly urge Congresswoman Lee, Congresswoman Titus, and Congressman Horsford to pass bold, ambitious investments needed to tackle the climate crisis, because we cannot wait any longer. The climate crisis is at our door, and it requires immediate action and attention. So thank you all for being here with us today. With that, I'm going to turn it over to my dear friend and colleague, Rudy Zamora with Chispa, Nevada.
Thank you, Verna, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Rudy Zamora. I am the Program Director for Chispa, Nevada. We are a community organizing program dedicated to building the power within the Latinx community in Nevada when it comes to decisions that affect our environment. Today, we're here to call on Congress to work with President Biden to pass an ambitious climate bill that will address the severity of the problems that we are facing. And when I say we, I mean low-income families, Black and brown communities who are overwhelmingly suffering the worst impacts of this climate crisis. For many years, Chispa, Nevada has been organizing parents, students, and families across Clark County calling for a transition to electric school buses that will clean up our air and improve our children's health. Most school buses run on diesel, and diesel pollution, as we heard, has been linked to lung cancer, heart disease, and asthma. We know that Nevadans strongly support and want to see pollution-free school buses in our communities. Senator Cortez Masto has already co-sponsored legislation to fund electric school buses, and school districts across Nevada are considering zero-emission models to improve our children's health and our air quality. We need an investment from Congress to accelerate this transition to a clean ride for kids. As a parent of an asthmatic child who has been hospitalized multiple times because of breathing problems, I know what it's like to experience the impacts of air pollution firsthand. And this is something that no child or no parent should have to go through. Our families need Congress to act now and act quickly to pass an ambitious climate legislation with meaningful funding for electric, zero-emission school buses, because our children in our communities deserve to breathe free. Thank you, and I will pass it to Albert Burley, who is the Executive Director with Electric Vehicle Sales at the Bluebird Corporation.
Thank you very much, Rudy. Good morning, everyone. I'm Albert Burley, and as Rudy said, I'm the Executive Director of Electric Vehicle Sales with Bluebird Corporation. Thank you very much for including Bluebird in this webinar today. We very much appreciate it. At Bluebird, we build school buses, and we've been building school buses for almost 100 years. And for the last 3 years, we've been building our all-electric, zero-emission, zero-pollution school buses. And in that time, we've sold almost 800 electric school buses in 22 states and 4 Canadian provinces and counting. Those buses are operating in very warm climates like Arizona, Texas, and Southern California, very cold climates like Minnesota and North Dakota. And they are built to operating in all climates, even in the heat of Nevada. Because they're virtual today, unfortunately, we can't take you on a ride in an electric school bus, but if we did, I think you would agree that it's an amazing and very quiet ride and much different than the bus you likely rode on as a kid. At Bluebird, we're the market leader in electric school buses. We've sold more than all our competitors combined. We're also the leader in electric vehicle technology, not just in school buses, but really all classes of vehicles. That's because we're the only ones to offer vehicle-to-grid technology standard on our buses, and the only ones who have done this with full interconnections with utilities, which really allows the stored energy on the batteries to be sold back to the grid, which gives our customers the opportunity to earn revenue with their electric school buses, which is pretty neat. And not even Tesla can do that. So we're pretty proud of it. And the reason I tell you all this is to point out that these are not just products of the future. They are products for today, and they've been safely transporting kids all over North America for the last few years. And the great thing is this bus can meet the needs of over 90% of all school bus route requirements. That's because the average school bus route is less than 80 miles per day. That's 40 miles in the morning and 40 miles in the afternoon. And this bus can do over 100 miles on a single charge. Electric buses also have a very significant positive impact to the environment. Replacing a diesel bus with an electric school bus removes approximately 23 tons of greenhouse gases per year. So if all 480,000 school buses in the US became zero emission, there would be 11 million tons of greenhouse gases would be eliminated every single year, which is a huge contribution to the fight against climate change and a very positive impact to our children's health. And for the 24 million students that are transported daily on school buses in the 10,000 communities in the US where school buses operate, we know that electrifying school buses is the right thing to do for the health and safety of our kids. However, the transition to electric school buses requires transformational support to help school districts make electric school buses a reality, like the funding in the infrastructure bill that was passed by the Senate. And we look forward to continue to work with the administration and all members of Congress to further those efforts towards electrifying school buses in the future. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to turn it over to Cynthia Zermeño-Moore from Moms Clean Air Force, Nevada.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you to all of our speakers for taking the time to join us. And we want to thank Senator Cortez Masto and Senator Rosen for their votes this morning. And we want to urge Congresswoman Lee, Congressman Horsford, and Congresswoman Titus to support this in Congress because we can't wait any longer. Our kids' health is on the line and their future as well. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Cynthia. And thank you to all of our speakers. That's the end of our formal remarks portion of our event. We now have a few minutes for question and answer. For members of the media, if you have a question, you can use the raise your hand function to indicate your question, or you can also type that you have a question into the chat box to let us know. I'll be happy to work through the question requests one at a time and unmute your line so you can ask the speaker your question. And before we get to any questions, we just ask that you please state your name, media outlet, and if you have a specific panelist that you're directing your question to. All right, let's go to News 3 Las Vegas. Your line is unmuted.
Hello, my name is Alexis Gorey with News 3 in Las Vegas. My question would be, how much would this cost, this transition? And specifically, why federal money and not state money?
Thank you so much. Would any of our panelists like to respond?
I don't know if I can answer the question, the second part regarding why federal money versus state money. The cost, yes, that's a good question. The cost of an electric school bus, if that's what your question is certainly more of an upfront cost to a school district than a typical diesel bus. And really, that's why some of this transformational support we're talking about today is needed. It'll help really, drive down those costs as the volume of electric school buses are sold and make these more affordable really for more and more school districts to purchase. And it really does take some pretty significant funding on a federal level to make that a reality. So we're certainly in support of that. We want to see as many school districts be able to take the advantage of electric school buses throughout the US. And we think that's very important.
Now, to add on to that specifically, is there a ballpark range of, how much that would cost our school district with the amount of buses that we would need to transition into electric?
I don't. For a local school district in Nevada, I couldn't really give you a good ballpark of what it would take. I don't know what the typical replacement cycle is for school buses there locally. That varies by customer, that varies by state. But it's something we probably could provide to you at a later date.
And I do just want to chime in here that we do have a report that we can provide for members of the media that details some of the costs of replacement costs. And we'd be happy to follow up with you about that. Senator, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think many times what we do is we look at quote the upfront cost as opposed to looking at it as an initial investment. And so from a business standpoint, if we want to bring it down to the bottom line, the ROI on transitioning from fossil fuels to renewable energy and what that would mean in terms of cost, if you will, to school districts. There's a report that came out that healthcare costs from climate change and fossil fuel pollution tops, wait for it, 820 billion with a B a year. That's healthcare cost. And so when we put that on top of communities of color specifically that suffer the most when you start talking about pollution, air pollution, and climate change, when you put that on top of the healthcare costs that are already impacting these communities, I venture to say that I would probably rephrase the question and put it like this. Our initial investment will be fill in the blank, and then our cost savings would be, because if you ask a mother, a father, a grandparent, someone who has a member of their family suffering from respiratory illness, and I have to put in veterans as well. If you ask them what the cost is, how much would it be in order to get their breath back? I would venture to say that you can't even put a dollar amount on it. So I choose to look at this not from what will it cost to go in. I choose to look at this from a business standpoint and say, in addition to getting healthy lives, but if we want to be fiscally responsible, we're talking about saving $820 billion. And I'm pretty sure that the initial investment in school buses and other things that we're doing to convert from fossil fuel, I'm pretty sure that that is just a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, and I would add to the really great answer that Senator Sherman just said. I know that from what we've seen, the Biden administration is currently proposing $20 billion to transition 20% of the national fleet for school buses. So that's a start. I know that the states don't have the funding, and it's like Senator Spearman said, it's a high cost investment at the beginning. But with this, the proposal that President Biden has of those $20 billion, that's a good start. And that's somewhere that we can slowly start making that transition, so to ensure that our kids have access to clean air. Not only our kids, but everyone in our communities.
Thank you, Rudy, Senator, and speakers. I do want to note that I just dropped into the chat function for everyone. It's a report that notes that electric buses are lower cost net-wise than fossil fuel buses over their service life due to lower maintenance and no fuel costs. So as a helpful reference regarding that question. Any additional questions from our members of the media? Okay, once again, I want to thank everyone, in particular Moms Clean Air Force Nevada, for hosting the event and live streaming the event. I also want to thank all of our speakers for their time and continued support for big, bold investment in electric vehicles, EV infrastructure, and clean energy. Thank you to all the members of the media for joining us. I should note that the video recording of this event will be available on the Moms Clean Air Force Facebook page. A link to that video will be sent out in the press release within the next hour. If you have any follow-up questions or requests for speaker interviews, you can connect with Jill Brownlee, whose contact information is on the media advisory and will be on the press release. Thank you so much again, and have a terrific day.
Thank you.